welcome everyone to Sunday Sentiments.
Of course, this is a hate crime.
And if she's found guilty, then she has to face the consequences.
They normally end up killing some particular kinds of people.
It's a violation of human rights.
That's a very traumatic event.
So I just wanted to ask the panel about their own opinions on this topic.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sunday Sentiments. Sunday Sentiments is a segment on our YouTube channel where a panel comes together and discusses current event and hot topics from all over the world. Please do be aware that all the views that are shared on this panel do not reflect the views of Four Wings as an organization. These are everybody's personal views and opinions. And today our segment will be hosted by Shika.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining today. We are going to discuss a developing story. It's just come out in the last day or so about an incident that happened in 2020. Now I have to give a trigger warning before we proceed because a lot of what we'll discuss can be triggering and very upsetting to people. This involves racism and police humiliation of a child with no appropriate adult present. So I will just give you a little background on this story. So Black child's ordeal, which involved the exposure of body parts, took place without parental consent. So this is what the review found. So a young girl of 15 years old had the police called on her by her teachers because they thought they smelled cannabis on her. So they rang the police, and when the police came, they decided that they were going to strip search her. This is because the teachers had already did a quick search and found nothing. So the police were called in to do a strip search on her. And apparently during this whole strip search, there was no adult present. The teachers were not in the room, they were outside. It was two female police women. This girl was on her periods, and despite her informing them of this, they still insisted on her stripping and having to expose herself, including bending over to prove that she wasn't hiding any drugs in intimate parts around her. After this was done, the girl had an exam and she wanted to go to the loo to change her pad or whatever, to compose herself, because this must have been very traumatizing. And she was told, no, you have to just go straight to the exam room by her teachers, okay? So she's going straight from that into an exam without even the opportunity to compose herself or deal with whatever she wanted to deal with in the loo. So the report found that this was a humiliating, traumatizing, and utterly shocking search of a girl of 15. And I don't think this is just the report that finds this. Everyone that has, most people that have seen this news were very, very shocked. So before we even proceed, yeah, I want to hear from the young people on this panel before we talk about just how unjust this was. I want to hear from the young people on this panel individually. How would you feel if this was you at your school? How do you think that, what do you think that girl was thinking? And how would you feel if that was you? And, you know, we know this is not okay, but we want to hear from you in your words. I'll start with Imani, please.
I would have felt very scared and also very sexualized, because the whole incident itself with her being bent over like a teenage girl, that's scary, by adult men. I see that as very problematic. Yeah.
Okay. Imani wasn't men, it was two
Oh.
female officers. But I mean,
Oh,
yeah, what do you think of that? It was two female officers. What do you think, knowing that it was women that did this to the girl?
okay. That then it's
Yes.
clearly not just sexualizations, racism.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Imani. Anyone else want to give their comment? How would they feel if this was them? We'll go to Shakira and then Jamila, please. And then Shepa.
I gotta say that just the fact that because like Imani didn't know that it was women, and she was already thinking like, what the heck, like sexualizing a child. But for me, I'm just, how do I explain this? I don't think that there's a difference if it was a male or female officer. I still think it's weird why you, as an adult person, making a child bend over and then using the law to be on your side to be like, well, we had to do a search just like she was already searched and they found nothing. But because all of them are racist, they want to be like, maybe we'll find something though. Let's just humiliate this person because they humiliated us because we were proven wrong.
Okay, Shakira, I want to know first, how can you just put yourself in her shoes? Because, you know, you're much closer in age and you left school recently. How would you feel as that girl with this happening? And would you know what your rights were? What would you have said if that was you, it was happening to?
I would say that if it was me now, I would just say I'd like, because I have no time
Not
for
now,
nonsense.
not now.
No,
Shakira.
I'm saying now, and then I'm saying back then. Like
Okay.
now, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself, and I'm very assertive, like a lot more assertive now than I would have been when I was 15. Because now I just feel like I'd rather you just like arrest me. If you're gonna, I'd rather you shoot me in the leg than do that to me. No, that's less humiliating. But I know that back then, I probably would have been the person who's there, like being humiliated because I don't know what to do, because it's an authority figure. You're used to listening to everything that they say every single day. And this time they're saying, well, you got to listen to this police officer, and you also see police officers as an authority figure. Like something like that, not something like that, but like I've also been humiliated before where I was quite literally like an injustice was happening to me. Somebody was calling my mother racially motivated like things and stuff. And when I threatened him several times and ended up throwing water in his face, I was told to clean it up. The teacher was observing the entire time, but didn't do anything until I actually like stood up for myself. And that was humiliating because I had to be down on my knees cleaning up water in front of all of my classmates.
And this is after you were trying to stop someone from being racist, you know, and throwing about these racial slurs about your mother. The person that was meant to safeguard you, that's the teacher, did nothing until you threw water, and then you were told to.
That's usually how it is in these situations. They don't think racism is a big thing because it's like, oh, freedom of speech everywhere in the world. They care so much about freedom of speech, but not about the mental health of the Black children. Well, like POC children, but especially Black children who are going to be traumatized for the rest of their lives from the stuff that they've gone through in their schools, where they can see that authority figures don't give a damn about them or their feelings or their human, like basic human rights.
I just want to ask you, Shakira, because you talked about that incident and how you felt having to be down on your knees cleaning in front of other kids. Now, think about this, the same, you're bending and you're bending over to be searched. How then do you think this girl felt, or how would you have felt thinking about that incident you just mentioned? How would you have felt?
Humiliated, like this kind of stuff. Like we were sexually harassed a lot in school as well, not by teachers obviously because that's disgusting, but by classmates themselves. Like other classmates would sexually harass all of the girls in our class, and I can't even imagine how it would feel like to be not even like, you're not even wearing clothing, you're like literally fully exposed in front of two adults who are like telling you to cough and stuff because they don't believe you.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you, Shakira. And it was very, very important to hear from you as well, that you've been through something similar where you were meant to be protected. You were in school. There's an expectation that the police, sorry, not the police, the teachers would protect you. And in your case, they didn't, and instead ended up humiliating you after somebody was throwing about racial slurs. And I think it's important to discuss this because we can't just keep putting our heads in the sand about racism and not wanting to discuss it, because then things will never change. If people of color, Black children, brown children are saying this is happening to us, and nothing is done to stop this institutional racism, then kids will keep getting traumatized for life, from incidents that are happening in places where they should feel safe and protected. So, and that's why it was important to have young people on this panel, because young persons of color on this panel, because I know a lot of you have been through this racism in schools, and feeling you're getting no support from the people that are meant to protect you. So we're gonna go, thank you, Shakira. We're gonna go to Jamila next, please. How
So,
would you feel if it was you first? Let's talk
yeah,
about that.
yeah, well, I went through like a search one time when I was in a store. They thought that I stole something and they didn't follow any of the protocol that normal people would. And this was actually when I was like 15, I'm pretty sure. I was scared because two security guards came out from nowhere and then took me to the back room by myself, and they were male. And then they told me to just empty out my content. And even then, when I was going through that, I was having the worst anxiety and I was really scared. Like, what are they gonna do? To the extent of like, because even though I was scared at that moment, I usually have a lot of anxiety in front of men, because of like, past stuff, trauma and stuff. If it was female women telling me to do that, I would be scared to stand up, but I would not do that rather than just take me. And I said this because I've had loads of incidents with teachers telling me what to do when they haven't told other people who don't look like me the same thing. And like, I was also taught by my mom, like, don't take anything from teachers. And if something happens, call me and she'll go into the school and deal with it. So if they were to do that, at least I know that I can, call her. But maybe this girl didn't like know what she should do in the situation and was just so scared. So me personally, I would have felt really like anger and annoyance with this. Like, I would have been like, no, I'm not doing it. I would turn into one of those girls in school, the ones that don't have to listen because they have a lighter shade of skin tone, because I knew that there was a difference in how they treated me and them. This girl might have just been out of nowhere surprised that she was going to be searched by two women, and she might have not expected it. But yeah, that's how I would have felt. I would have felt really angry. And obviously, like, I can't stand confrontation, so I would have also had a lot of anxiety and might have even had an anxiety attack. So they can't even do that at the end.
Thank you, Jamila. Yes, I remember that incident when you were taken to be searched because of suspicion of shoplifting, and they found nothing. And the
No
weird
apology.
thing, no apology, even from the store when we went, they were very blasé about it. And actually, when I think about it now, we should have taken it further. They just gave a very blasé apology, and the whole, the usual, they were just doing their job, blah, blah, blah. But when you think about it, these were two men taking an underage girl into a room, to tell her to, remove stuff from your bag or whatever. But you were in a room at the back or wherever with no adult present, no woman present, for
There
them
was
to
one
search.
woman.
Was
There
there a
was
woman?
there was a woman. There was people already in the room, before, and the security guards were the ones that took me there. And the only reason why I wasn't like scared out of my mind was because one of the security guards said, it's okay, like this is protocol or something like that, and we didn't know, like you probably didn't do anything or something like that. And that's the only reason why I wasn't scared. But you know, a lot of these types of situations, the person's taken to the back and everyone knows, like, is accusing them of doing something. There's no one there to be like, it's okay, it'll be fine, blah, 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 this. They just all have this, like, all of a sudden, you're an adult to them. And yeah, they have a stigma and they don't want to take you, like, as a human being. They just want to be authoritarian or whatever it is. You know, like, they take in their authority just too seriously, and they're having a joyride because they can with you, especially if you're a black person of color, especially.
Yeah, and someone has commented that I would assume I was going to be sexually assaulted because
That's
you've
how
been
I felt.
taken to the back by
That's
two
how I
men.
felt at the beginning. And I think the security guard could see that I was literally scared. Like, I was like, what is going on? And then, like, and usually that's why I was also surprised, because usually someone, they would just be quiet and be like, come with us, like, let's go. And no one would even like care to tell a child like, you'll be fine.
For you in the UK, question, when they take minors to back rooms like this, or when they're doing search of young ones because they suspect them of whatever, what is the rule? Please, can you enlighten us?
They're not supposed to do that. Like, if they don't have, like, for example, solid evidence, nothing beeped or anything, like, what, you're under 18.
But then
What
we
should
go
they
back.
do?
Well, you're meant to have an appropriate adult or a guardian. So appropriate adult should be a parent or another guardian, or even in the case of that supermarket, really from the start, there should have been a third person that wasn't part of the security, just to, like, a woman, actually, in your case, because you're a girl, from the start, just to make sure that
They
everything
shouldn't
was,
have taken me to the back. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Usually when you're telling someone to show you stuff, they just needed to see my bag.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they didn't just ask me to empty I would have been fine emptying my content, like, out at the front of the store, than being brought to the back room. Like, that's why I was scared. I was like, why would they take me all the way to the back? Usually when someone searches your bags and stuff, you don't need to go all the way to a back room to start doing them.
But then again, there you go, Jamila, you were caught by surprise. You didn't know your rights. So we're going to talk about knowing your rights. And you went with them because it was intimidating. Someone has said intimidating tactics. You've seen these two men with authority, with the uniform, so they look authoritative, and they're telling you have to go to the back. Actually, they didn't have to take you to the back. And if people knew their rights, they would say, I don't need to go to the back with you. I don't know who you are. You can check my bag right here. Okay, so let's get back on topic, and I'll just give you another fact that you didn't know. When the police were called, guess how many police arrived? Because I think in our head we think it was just 2 police women. No, not that many, but it was 4 police that came. 2 were men and 2 women. An incident where the teachers smelled cannabis.
And mind you, the teachers had also searched her, hadn't they?
Yeah, the teachers had already searched her and found nothing. So they ring up and ask, what should we do? And they decide to send 4 police, 2 men, 2 women, to strip search this girl. Okay, so just bear that in mind. So it wasn't just 2 female police who came by to do a check. They came 4 police. So can you imagine that girl surrounded by teachers who obviously are not on her side because they called the cops on her, 2 male police, and then 2 other women who maybe she thought would be more understanding. But guess what they do? When they're in that room, they humiliate her. When she's on her periods, you would think 2 female police women would think, we can't do this to this girl. She's on her periods.
Or they would think, if it was me, would they actually do that themselves?
Yeah.
would they do that?
If it was me, if it was my child, if it was my niece, you know, whoever, everyone knows somebody of a certain age. So everyone has someone of a certain age in their life. Just that empathy to think, if it was me, if you have such the person, why would you think, first of all, that a girl of 15 would go out of her way to hide? And so what? Actually, I want to say, so what?
Yes, I
So
want to
what?
also, Shiko, I want to say this was, how can you say, when you exaggerate things, because when they called, the school called and said this girl was suspected, was smelling of cannabis, and they hadn't found anything, the level of danger, come on, this is ridiculous to send for policemen. The teachers
Like
have
she was
not
a drug
mentioned,
dealer.
it was not a dangerous situation where somebody had a weapon, or he was a danger, she was a danger to the other students or to the teachers. It was a suspicion of cannabis. So the level of danger did not, the lack of danger in this situation did not merit them sending 4 officers, actually. So this was exaggerated reaction. And we know, because this school is in a specific part of London, we can all agree that that's the reason why 4 officers were sent.
Can I point out something? Something I also mentioned in the group chat, that what I've noticed is, if you're a Black kid, and I think Bill, you mentioned it too, you're seen as more as an adult, you're sexualized more, you're seen as someone more prone to doing criminal activities. Like, I think if someone with a lighter skin someone smelled that they had smoked weed or something, that they wouldn't react this way, because it's actually very common that young people smoke, really common. But that this whole thing became so big with 4 police people, what the fuck? Oh, excuse me. Delete that. It just frustrating.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is frustrating, Imani, and we understand we're not gonna police the language on this. It's actually very upsetting that this is happening. Of course, you would react in upset. Shakira, will come to you. I just want to hear from Shepa first, and then we'll start now really discussing this. Shepa, welcome, and thanks for joining. How would you feel? Because I think you're around the same age, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 15 as well.
You are 15.
Yeah.
So you're a 15-year-old girl. You go to school. For whatever reason, your teachers think you smell of cannabis. How would you react, and how would you feel if those teachers called the police on you?
First of all, it's very disgusting. We go to school to become something for our futures, not to be called a criminal. In my opinion, it's very, it's clearly racism. I would be scared to go to school. School is a place where you're meant to be safe, but in this school, the school is making the students not feel safe.
Yeah.
I would be scared because to go to school, because the school has made the topic for kids to talk about and bully her for.
Exactly. That's another thing. Thank you so much, Shepa. So instead of safeguarding this girl, already they put her through a traumatizing experience where she will never be able to trust them again. And then they now make her the object of bullying because people saw 4 police coming. You know, they don't know what they're coming for. I mean, no one would ever imagine that police would be called for a smell of weed. I mean, just yesterday, someone, I don't know, okay, thank you. Just yesterday, and actually the last couple of weeks, we've been out together in town, and how many times, Jamila, have I said, oh, there's a smell of weed? Like, it's everywhere. The smell of weed is everywhere. Imagine if cops were called every time somebody smelled weed. Really?
Can I say
I mean,
something? Can I say something?
yeah.
By our house, there was a house that smelled of weed, and you know how long it took for the police to come and check the house out? Like
Yeah.
it took at least 2 years of us being there and smelling it. And even the people in the store across the road that I was working from have like told the police about it, and they do nothing for 2 years. But then they're so quick to run into a school to start strip searching a child.
Yeah, I mean, so there you go. So weed is everywhere. For me, first of all, I had to read this story over like a couple of times because I was looking for something that would justify this. Was she known to carry weapons? Was there, did they think there was a weapon? Was she aggressive? No. For anyone that wants to rationalize this, it's all there in the review. There was an investigation. The teacher said the reason they rang the police was because they smelled weed. No other reason. They didn't give any other reason other than that. They didn't think she had a weapon because I've seen some people trying to rationalize and justify saying, oh, well, who knows, maybe she had a weapon. No, the teachers did not say they thought she had a weapon. The teachers did not mention that she was aggressive to them or whatever. No, they searched her, didn't find anything, and that was the reason they called the police, because they wanted to find something. As Shepard said, they wanted to criminalize this girl. They wanted to find something because she once had a friend who was known to take drugs that was expelled. That was their reason. Yeah, these are the people who are meant to protect you. Yes, Shakira.
So it's just about the police officers, because some of you mentioned that maybe the women should have felt like sympathy or like compassion because they're women as well. You've gone through this as well for like, I don't know how old they are, 40 years, who knows. But in these kind of situations, I'm sorry, I already don't like cops, but my theory for the rest of my life, I don't care how many nice ones I meet or how many friendly ones I meet on the street. In my head, any cop I see, in my head, I'm just thinking like the backstory is you had nobody, like you were a loser in school for your entire life until you graduated and you found a career where you could have some kind of authority over somebody else. And you want to use that to your advantage. I'm sorry, you see it on the street all the time. Me, Jamila, and McKenna will be out walking on the street, minding our business, doing literally nothing. And they're quicker to say something to us than the guys doing helium on the street corner, or the ones who literally have a blunt in their hand smoking. Like, they don't care.
Or
Like,
drunk people
drunk people who
are
act
aggressive towards
belligerently.
them.
They
They
don't do
literally get harassed by drunk people in the street, and they just smile and laugh and joke with them. But then they'll tell Shakira, language, please.
because I was cussing out somebody who was harassing us and wouldn't leave us alone, even though we rejected him once, got insulted or humiliated, I guess, because he couldn't handle like the rejection part of hitting on someone, and then started insulting us. And because I cuss him out under my breath or out loud, or who cares, I have to mind my business. So you can police my business, but you can't police the guys that were just down the street doing helium. I don't trust police, and I feel like everything that they do is just to assert their authority over somebody else. Because just like Jamila said with the house that smell like weed, they're not going to get involved because they know they can't really be like, well, I'm the police, I do what I want. But they could do with this situation because they know that as a person that doesn't know their rights, and as a person that could be intimidated into doing whatever it is that the police is saying. That's how it is in most of these situations. And a person of color.
Because
They don't.
that place where we lived is not known to have, POC there. So that house, I'm pretty sure a white person lived there. And that's why they did nothing. Because they could never do anything like that. It's probably the neighbors miles away who are black. That's the thought process. And the reason why, Shakira, you feel that way is because you are black. You don't have the privilege to pretend that the police are actually doing good for like our community. They most of the time they give us reasons to not trust them. And it's so weird because they're police. And that's the whole point. You're meant to actually protect and serve, but the only people you protect and serve are people who look like you. In fact, I barely ever see black police officers in Liverpool, and it's meant to be multicultural here.
That's true. That's another thing. Yeah. The representation in the police force, at least in some parts of the country. I'm gonna hear from Keshi next, and then yeah, let's hear from Keshi next. Thank you, Shepa.
I just want to bring attention to an article I found by Diane Abbott. She's a MP of Hackney North. I think this incident happened around those areas. And she's giving her response to this. And she talks about the statistics and also about the child safeguarding review. And according to her statistics, she says that, of course, not every police officer abuses their power, but many do. And racial discrimination in the way the police exercise their power has been statistically verifiable fact for far too long. And she says that the use of strip and search continues to increase. And by some estimates, Black people are 9 times more likely to be victims. And then she asked her, how many of those are children? Again, she's looking at statistics from Hackney. According to that review I mentioned from 2020 to 2021, 25 children under the age of 18 were strip searched. Most of the searches, 88% were negative, and only 2 children were found to be white. So the rest of the children searched were Black. Tell me if this is not racial discrimination. Tell me if this is not racial bias by police. And these are statistics. This is not emotion, statistics speaking. I think the police in England, they need to review how they act and how they treat people, because at the end of the day, we are talking about children. We have cases of a grown man of 22 being sentenced to Shakespeare, to read Shakespeare by your court system, but we have your police victimizing children, humiliating children 15, 18 and under just because of their skin color. Shame on them.
Thank you very much, Keshi, for giving us those statistics, because we have those statistics, but guess what? A commission that was, of course, by the government on institutional racism found that it doesn't exist. Yeah, apparently institutional racism doesn't exist. Okay, that's what the report found. And then we hear these stories, we have reviews where, you know, it was found that there was a racial context to this. We have a judge sentencing a young white, I would say, extremist.
He is an extremist.
To reading Shakespeare. And then you have a girl who the teachers call the police on because she smelled of weed. I mean, it's not, I mean, seriously, she wasn't carrying a weapon. She didn't have cocaine. She wasn't a hardcore drug dealer. Okay. So one person has 4 police on them. The other one is told, go and read Shakespeare, for having like extremist material, planning how to make a bomb and kill people.
Even
And then
if she had a weapon, she didn't need to be strip searched at all.
No, but and also without an appropriate adult,
yeah,
without a parent or a guardian there.
For me, this was the response was in proportionate.
Disproportionate, yes, it was.
Disproportionate, sorry, disproportionate.
She did not need to be strip searched at all. I don't see what the logic, there's not one piece of logic. I don't care, even if she did have drugs and she hid them there. Strip search in a school randomly is not something.
Yeah, why not send her home? But even why send her home and the teachers found nothing?
Exactly. The teachers found nothing, so why?
Shakira has something to say.
Just speak.
Sorry. I just don't want us all talking over each other. No, it's just when you're saying like why you could have just sent her home. I was even saying you expelled the other student that was her friend before. If you suspected her of anything, just send her home, call a parent, do something, but they don't want to do that. I'm sorry, in these situations, my theory, just like with the cops, is that they thought, they were probably saying like, we know you have something on you, or whatever it is that they're saying, like, we know you have something, show us exactly where it is, and telling her whatever. And they're humiliated themselves, so they're like embarrassed because they're like, there was nothing there. We're gonna humiliate you instead, so you don't talk about this. Let's call the cops. Let's make this horrible for you. So now you're the one who's gonna suffer for the rest of your life from that emotional damage that you had to suffer, that emotional trauma. In all these situations where an authority figure tries to do this kind of stuff to a child, I just think it's that they don't like being like proven wrong by a child, especially in this situation, a Black child.
Yeah.
So they want to humiliate them instead, to be like, well, I couldn't prove that I was right, but I want you to suffer anyway. So we're going to traumatize you completely. And then also make sure that you probably fail your exam because you're so yeah.
For me, this is very hurtful because I'm going back to that guy, 22 years old, who was sentenced to Shakespeare. This guy had been investigated since he was 19. They'd been watching him and his actions, downloading all this extremist literature since he was 18 or 19. So they had evidence against him. But look at the punishment. So he was handled with kid gloves because he's a white guy. Let's be honest, because if he had been a Muslim extremist, he would not have been given the same chances. But now here we have a girl who probably has no record of having cannabis, who has, I think I read online that she's a very smart girl, a clever girl in school, and so on. So this is a child who does not have a history of violence. But this is the response the school and the police take with this non-suspicious person. Okay, they smelled it, and it could have been anything they were smelling that smells like cannabis. So can you see that lack of fairness? That's what upsets me most, that we have people who are adults being child-fied, and we have children because of their skin colors, like Imani mentioned, like Jamila mentioned, being adultified so that they can justify mistreating these children. This is very upsetting, indeed, very upsetting.
I also want to point out something that I've been talking with others before and read about, that in the US, the reason why cannabis became illegal in the first place has something to do with Black people, racism also, that they would bring it up. It was in the community, and then somehow they made it illegal because they noticed a lot of Black people would smoke it. And that could be a good excuse to arrest people. That's why you hear stories about people who smoke, have one joint or something, and then they get arrested and stay in jail for like 10 years or something. So the reason why it's even illegal in the first place has something to do with racism, funny enough.
Yeah, Imani, we do know that in that community or in that country, there are people who take meth and other even more serious drugs, but they target people who are, but yeah, this is not a discussion about meth anyway, but I agree with you.
And also I just want to keep repeating during this discussion, we're not gonna silence anyone's opinions because you have had your experiences as persons of color, and I know you've been targeted because of your color, so you need to speak up and speak out, and if you need to, and we're not gonna edit anything out because those are your experiences as young persons of color.
I just wanted to say that because I wasn't thinking about this until Imani mentioned it, but I'm not allowed to just stand in my city and just enjoy the weather. You get arrested for standing there under suspicious behavior.
They've criminalized protesting because of what happened with Black Lives Matter in the UK.
Okay, yeah, there's a good example. I'm trying to bring it back to the UK because we are talking about the UK. So there's a good example, yeah, of criminalizing things so that people do not speak out, so you can silence a group of people. And then you
And
tell
also
us there's
because
no
they can put an
institutional racism.
authority. They
Yeah.
can use their authority over POC people, mainly Black people, since it's something that we finally got, like, you know, there's so many protests for so many other things that happen, and they never thought, oh, let's, you know, criminalize it. But until Black people start doing it, that's when they have a problem, and they know that they can, you know, have a power against us, because everyone already has a stigma against Black people. So if they do something to us, no one is going to care. And that's what I thought was going to happen with this case. I thought no one would care because it's a Black girl, and people think, well, you guys are normal, usually do this. Like, the suspicion was, you know, validated. That's what
Yeah.
people's mindsets are. And I'm not just talking about white people. I think a lot of people, even people of color, always have this one stigma about Black people, and it's that we do drugs, we're violent, and we're thugs.
I think it also has something to do with media, and people in power can change the narrative to make it to fit what they want. So if media only shows Black people doing things, that's what people will believe, that only Black people do these things, not other people. So
And they love to do it to Black people, because I've even seen, you know, with this whole Ukraine thing, when they were showing, you know, videos of like the African people, actually a lot of female Black women being stopped from getting on, even the children. The only people that they showed were Black men, and that is clearly a way for them to say that it's only Black men and they're running for their lives, when they should be, like, you know, letting the women go. Like, it's a way to twist it to always make us look like we're aggressive in some type of way, even when we're running from our lives, for our lives. And they never show the vulnerable, like, you know, people, or someone who could be vulnerable. So people just have this mindset that Black people can't be, you know, scared for their lives, or, you know, harassed. Black women can't be, you know, sexualized and stuff like that, even though
Black
it's so
kids
obvious.
can't be kids.
Yeah, they can't be kids. They have to have drugs on them when they're 15 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I know so many, like, in my school, white kids who would be smoking in the back. Literally, the teachers would just walk casually over and say, disperse, when they know that they're smoking cigarettes.
Oh, they know.
Underage. But for some reason, this girl, she smelled like it. They didn't see her do it like they saw in my school. They didn't see them do it. And then they just said, yeah, you must have weed on you.
And don't forget, Mila, and because we're talking about institutional racism, don't forget, in your school, you had these girls up to no good in the bushes because they were doing wrong. That's why they were in the bushes, smoking, yeah? And the teachers would just give them a slap on the wrist, tell them to disperse. But they went after you for wearing, you know, your hair in braids of a certain color, or having a jacket of a certain color. So this is what we mean. You have people doing actually serious things, getting a slap on the wrist, and then a person of color doing something that is not harmful, just going about their business, wanting to go to school and learn, like Shepard said, and then they get targeted by the teachers for nonsense, you know. So I'd like to give an update and tell me what you think. The Met Police have apologized for this.
Have they been punished, fired?
Have they done anything, given reparations to the girl, maybe paid for her, like, psychologist that she's gonna need?
So this is developing, but they've apologized. This is a very recent story. I think it broke out yesterday or the day before yesterday. So they've apologized. That's what they've done. And again, for anyone trying to rationalize this, the Met Police themselves said this should not have happened. So Keshi, please.
Train your people better.
I just I wanted to say that I also read just a few minutes ago that the girl and her family are suing the police.
As they should.
Yeah, so they're suing the police. For those people out there that are still trying to justify this, the police themselves have said it shouldn't have happened. A review found that this should not have happened and there was racism involved. This is not just some people being emotional or the parents trying to pull things out of thin air. Yeah, both institutions that were involved in this have said it shouldn't have happened. There's no justification for this to have happened.
I'm actually surprised that they admitted it was racism, because I feel like many times when Black people, any person of color points out something, people always trying to rationalize it or come with excuses, or maybe you misunderstood, and it's always someone who never experienced it. And I'm like, well, have you been in my shoes? Have you actually had someone talk to you that way in my shoes? No, you haven't. Don't speak.
Manny, I think they acknowledged it because there was national outrage.
Yeah.
If there hadn't been that
reputation,
outrage, they would
they're
not
scared
have
of their
not,
reputation.
Yeah, they would not have apologized.
No, but in the review, Keshi, we have to give credit where
Yeah,
it's
if
due.
the review had been there, not made public, they would not have apologized. We know that.
My point,
They've done it many times.
Yes, Shiko.
Yes, I'm gonna say give credit where it's due. The review did state there was racism. There was no public influence. With that, they did their investigation, and this is what they found.
But what I'm saying, Shiko, is sorry. What I'm saying is the apology did not come at the review. The apology came because of the public outrage. They didn't apologize when the review came out. It was just a cut and dry review. This is how it was. But after they saw the outrage, even politicians coming in to give their opinion of how wrong this is, that's when now the police comes and apologizes.
Thank you, Keshi. We'll go to Shepa.
I think saying sorry will not bring her feeling safe in school, and also like the kids or someone else bullying her or feeling safe outside of school.
Thank you, Shepa. You know, I'm so happy to hear from Shepa because she's actually this girl's age. Yeah, we're all imagining, and I know some of you are a bit closer to that age, but we're all just imagining. But we have a girl here who is 15, and she's bringing some really good points. Yeah, that apology is not gonna de-traumatize the girl. Do you know she's been self-harming?
Yeah, thank you.
Self-harming. She's so traumatized. In fact, she had a lot of strength to actually speak up, and you know, however she did to aid in this review, because she's severely traumatized. I don't even know how she did in that exam. You know, so they could have also harmed her future. How can you pass an exam, you know, where you've just been strip searched, humiliated, and then you're told go straight into the exam? You can't even go to the bathroom. Yeah, so can you imagine?
Hasn't it also already been 2 years? What's the point of giving an apology now? Like, she could have given it 2 years ago. There's literally no justification in any kind of way. Just strip search and cavity search a child. They should have apologized 2 years ago. What's the point of doing it now? She's 17 at this point, right?
That's a good point. The reason there was a review is because nobody apologized. I'm sure if at that time they went and they said, you know, we shouldn't have done this to the family and blah, 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 and everyone took ownership of what happened and said it shouldn't have happened, I don't know if the mom would have gone forward with, you know, pushing for a review. But it's obvious because they didn't apologize, they didn't take ownership. That's why she had to push for justice. So you're right, that apology is coming a little too late. And the Met is always apologizing for things.
And I also
we just need a change. We're tired. We need a change.
I think there needs to be consequences, because these things will keep happening if police think they can get away with it. If they can still keep their job, if the consequences are very small and they can move on with their lives while she's been traumatized for life, literally, there should be consequences.
To apologize.
I know. Someone is saying the excuse is always they were just doing their job. I'm sorry.
Well, they failed in their job. When you fail in your job, you get fired.
Yeah, exactly.
If
And
you
also,
don't take into consideration the customer, or the person that you are working for, which the police should be working for the people.
They are working for
that's
the
my
people,
opinion.
like serve and protect.
So why isn't it that when they do something to upset, and by the way they review it all to see that they did wrong, they should be fired? That's what always goes on in every other job. Why can't the police get the same treatment?
And not just the police, in this case, the teachers that were involved as well. How could you ring the police on a child in school for smelling something after you have searched her and found nothing? You still think, how else can we go ahead with this, escalating this situation? Instead of de-escalating it, they kept escalating it to the point where a girl had to strip naked and be strip searched. Bend over and spread your legs. And we have to say these words. We have to say these details, as uncomfortable as they are, because if we do not, the impact of this treatment on a minor will not be understood. People will not be able to understand that this is a 15-year-old girl naked on her periods being told, bend over, spread your bottom, or whatever it is they were saying. We have to say these things, and we have to be angry and swearing if you need to, because it needs to stop.
Okay.
I also want to say, because people say it's just a few bad apples, but I keep saying it's the opposite. If there's institutional racism, that means there's a few good apples and there's a lot of bad apples, and this needs to change. Any institution where has been seen to be institutionally racist, it means there's a few good apples and a lot of bad apples, and a change needs to come. Okay, Keshi, please.
And yeah, I wanted, and I've been wanting throughout this, of course we are discussing about this, but and Shipa mentioned something about the impact this incident has had on the girl. So I wanted us to actually be clear on the impact this has had on the girl, because according to this girl, she says, I can't go a single day without wanting to scream, shout, cry, or just give up. And the mother says that the girl, the impact, this review found that the impact was obvious and ongoing, and that she's changed from being a happy-go-lucky girl to a timid recluse that hardly speaks. She's a shell of her former bubbly self, and she's now self-harming and requires therapy. From the time she was pulled out of her exam to the time she returned home, she was isolated, not given food or offered water. Where is the care? So this girl has been through a lot and is still going through a lot. Let's emphasize this is the impact. When police like this and traumatize young children or young girls, young Black people, this is the impact. This should be emphasized so that it's not something that happened 2 years ago and the impact is gone. It is ongoing for this girl. And thank you, Shipa, for bringing this information, highlighting this, the impact of this kind of incident on this victim.
You're right, Keshi. It's an ongoing, the impact is ongoing for her and her family. And who knows if she'll ever be able to live, with this, past this. We just can hope for the best for her. And I want to say that we're going to put a link to a letter of support for this child. There's a Black woman wrote a letter of support, and we're asking everyone of all colors, all women, men, whoever feels this was wrong, to just write a letter of support. We'll leave the link there. Just leave a comment there encouraging her, because she needs to know that she is loved regardless of what happened to her. There are also some protests in London yesterday and today. And if you see any petition that needs to be signed about this, please sign it. If there's a protest around you, near you, please go to it, because we need a change. We can't keep having these sorts of reviews saying there's no institutional racism, and we have stories like this coming out. and negative narratives around people of color that justify this kind of behavior by people in positions of power. And I'm saying in positions of power, including the school, because they authorized it. The head of this school must have known there's no way 4 police can come to your school without your authorization. So the head of the school and the teachers involved, all these people in positions of power failed this girl. And we need to stand up for her by writing an encouraging message on that link. And if we can protest, if there's any way we can support a review of the Met Police and other institutions that are racist, let's get involved. I don't know if anyone has a last comment so we can wrap up. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining this very impromptu meeting. We just had to react to this. We couldn't let a couple of weeks go without talking about this topic. It's just so upsetting. And as triggering as it is, we had to show it, and we need to speak up and be angry if we need to. And we just need more allies to help us fight for justice for persons of color, especially Black people. As we said, usually we're at the very bottom of the totem pole. All right, thank you very much, guys, for joining. Please do like and subscribe to our channel. We're trying to grow it. Please tell your friends, everyone on the panel, please tell your friends to subscribe to our channel so that it can grow bigger. And yeah, tell everyone about the work we do here every 2 Sundays. And if they want to join, if they're a woman or a girl that wants to join, they're welcome to. Thank you.